Not because they've lied, not because there's evidence against it. They show up, they're consistent, they say it again and again, and still some small persistent voice keeps waiting for the moment it turns out to be a mistake. A moment where they finally see the real you and change their mind. Let's call him Theo. He's 30. His partner tells him she loves him, unprompted, almost every day. She shows up when she says she will. She remembers things he mentioned once in passing. By any reasonable measure, Theo is loved consistently and clearly, and yet when she says it, something in him tightens instead of relaxes. He'll say, "I love you too," back, and immediately, quietly, brace, as if the words might be a setup for something. He finds himself testing her without meaning to, pulling back slightly to see if she notices, mentioning something unflattering about himself to see if her expression changes. When she doesn't flinch, when she stays exactly as warm as before, Theo doesn't fully relax. Instead, some part of him thinks, she just hasn't seen the real problem yet. She hasn't found the thing that will finally make sense of why he shouldn't be loved this easily. He's not choosing to think this. It happens automatically underneath his actual thoughts, faster than he can reason his way out of it. Here's what's actually happening. For a lot of people who struggle to believe they're loved, the issue isn't a lack of evidence. It's that somewhere earlier in life, love was inconsistent, conditional, or tied to performance. Good behavior, good grades, staying quiet, being easy, being useful. Love wasn't something simply given, it was something that had to be maintained and could be withdrawn. When that's your early template, your nervous system doesn't build a stable category called loved. It builds a category called loved for now, pending further evidence. Every declaration of love gets filed provisionally because your system learned, early and repeatedly, that affection can disappear the moment you stop performing correctly. So when someone loves you consistently, without conditions, your brain doesn't relax into it. It searches for the catch. Because a love with no catch doesn't match any category your nervous system has ever successfully filed before. It's not that you don't want to be loved simply, it's that your system genuinely doesn't have a folder for it yet. But here's what almost nobody says out loud. Underneath this pattern is often a much older, quieter belief that you are lovable only under certain conditions, and that your real self, the messy, unfiltered, unimpressive version, was never actually the one being loved to begin with. So when someone loves you fully, present tense, no conditions attached, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like a mistake waiting to be corrected. This is why some people unconsciously test the people who love them, not out of manipulation, but out of a desperate, half-conscious need for information. Is this love sturdy enough to survive contact with who I actually am? If you can catch someone loving you at your worst and watch them stay anyway, that becomes the only kind of proof your nervous system fully trusts. Anything less feels unverified. The tragedy is that this testing often exhausts the very people offering real love, while the love itself never gets to be simply received, because it's constantly being held up to the light, checked for cracks, treated as a claim to be disproven rather than a fact to be lived inside of. This shows up in different ways. There's the person who deflects every compliment with a joke because sincerely accepting "you're wonderful" feels more exposing than being criticized. There's the person who feels a flicker of suspicion during the calmest, happiest stretch of a relationship, waiting for the other shoe to drop simply because nothing has gone wrong yet. There's the person who confesses something small and unflattering early in a relationship, almost like a test, just to see if the warmth survives it, and breathes easier only once it does. In every case, the same quiet question is running underneath. Is this love conditional, like the one I learned first? Or is it actually, finally, unconditional? Here's the twist most people never consider. The goal isn't to force yourself to simply accept love faster or talk yourself out of the doubt through willpower. That rarely works because the doubt isn't irrational. It's evidence-based, built from a real history where love genuinely did have conditions. The real shift happens when you stop asking, "How do I make myself believe this?" and start asking, What would it take for me to slowly collect new evidence? Not one dramatic proof, but small repeated moments where you show up as your actual unfiltered self, and the love doesn't disappear. This is slow, deliberate work, closer to teaching a nervous system a new language than flipping a switch. Each time you let yourself be seen at less than your best and the love holds, that becomes one more small entry in a new file. Eventually, that file becomes thick enough to compete with the old one. So the next time someone tells you they love you and some quiet part of you tightens instead of settling, notice it without obeying it completely. You don't have to fully trust it yet. You just have to let the moment happen without testing it into collapse. Let it sit there as one more small piece of evidence, gathering slowly toward a truth your nervous system hasn't fully believed yet but is allowed to start learning. You were never unlovable at your worst. You were just loved once by someone who made love feel conditional. That was never the same thing.